You are listening to The Plot with a Twist, a Burning Hellos production. We are your bookish hosts, Roe
and Allorah.
If you like what you hear, please like, share, subscribe, and give us a quick review on your podcast app. It helps us become more visible to other bibliomaniacs. We publish bookish episodes each week on Wednesdays, so be sure to stay tuned for discussions and attitudes that are lit.
Every great book requires a main character you can get behind, side characters you want more of, and a villain that you can't wait to see meet their demise. Among modern literature, few villains incite the levels of rage and loathing as much or more as the infamous Coriolanus Snow, created by Suzanne Collins. What happened to Snow in his youth that caused him to perpetuate terror among the world of Panem? Or is it more complex than that? Today, we explore how young Coriolanus, who experienced war, the death of both of his parents, starvation, and poverty, rose to tyranny, addressing themes such as nature versus nurture, mental health, and social conditioning. So settle in as we deep dive into Snow's origin story in the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Warning. This episode is a deep dive that will contain spoilers throughout and contains themes of drug use, brutal violence, suicide, murder, child abuse and child murder, military abuse of power, and mental illness. Listener discretion is advised.
Quick announcement. For those of you who have been tuning in for the last year, Shaye has been given an opportunity to focus on her current career and has decided to take a step back from the plot with a twist. She will no longer be joining us on a regular basis. However, you may still hear her lovely voice when she comes in as a guest host at times. So, we hope you love listening to Allorah and I enough to keep hanging with us. We wish her the best of luck. And now, on with the show.
Yay!
I am so exhausted after the weekend.
I know. So we just covered Wild Out West yesterday, and we're putting all that footage together, but that's going to take a bit of time.
And I still haven't put away all my stuff that I got.
I know. And
they look in the background. You can see Richard.
Our new mascot.
His name's Richard.
Richard L. Peen.
Richard L. Peen.
So
I tried to stick him to my shoulder for the event, but he wouldn't stay.
While that was a romance book signing and all of the adult things.
Fun.
So,
all of the adult fun.
But we've been buddy reading Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because we went and we read Sunrise on the Reaping. And so then we were like, wait, we have to go back and read Ballad, because I think now that I've read all of the books, I would 100% say read the trilogy, then read Sunrise on the Reaping, then read Ballad.
I know it's written. I know that she wrote them, the original trilogy, and then Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then over to Sunrise on the Reaping. But I just think that it would be better to read. I got more out of Ballad.
Exactly.
After reading Sunrise on the Reaping, and that book gutted me. Like I was just,
and that's another podcast episode that's coming.
Completely,
it's definitely coming. But we wanted to do this one first.
Yes. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so what roles do you believe nature and nurture play in the upbringing of young Coriolanus?
I do think. Look at your face. You're already like, come on, just say it. I do think that it plays a part. I really do. But I don't feel that he was ever going to be a good person, ever. Just because you can see throughout the book that his way of thinking was never going to allow him to be anything other than what he ended up being.
And so I have a couple points on that. So Coriolanus is orphaned at the age of 5 by both his mother and his father. So his mother dies in childbirth, and his father is assassinated in District 12 by rebels. So we're told. Who knows if that's true? But
Probably just up and fucking left.
Maybe, perhaps. So he's raised by his grandmam or his grandmother, who is clearly a bigot and a sociopath in her own right. And she is the person that has the largest impression on shaping who he becomes in his adulthood. And it is her rhetoric and opinions of the district that becomes imprinted on Coriolanus when he's 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and that's a really impressionable age, right? That's when you are learning who to trust in the world, how to be safe in the world, what's good, what's bad, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree to a certain extent.
To a certain extent. We also know that Coriolanus's father, Crassus Snow, he is a general. So he's very well respected and all of that in the capital. But he is also said to be cold and distant and cruel. And even when he does interact with Coriolanus, it's not really a father-son bonding experience, if you will.
I wouldn't assume he would have got a lot of that, though. You can make the assumption with the war going on and what, he was 5 when they both died, or roughly around 5 when they both passed away.
Yeah, so he was 5.
He wouldn't have had as much interaction with his dad.
And then it's really interesting because his mother is also described as being kind and nurturing and singing him lullabies and being fragile.
That's his perception.
But also, if you take it out of his perspective as well, though, to be married to Crassus Snow, it would probably be a very codependent existence. Do you know what I mean? For her to not up and leave, and she was complicit. Let's just say that.
Though. She's not going to up and leave.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, though. He didn't have a strong mother figure.
No, and he didn't have a strong female presence, strength-wise. Although you could argue that with Tigress.
But yes and no.
If you want to compare it to, say, someone like Katniss or Lucy Gray.
Yeah, no.
Those girls have strength of personality. They have strength of conviction, but while also having compassion and understanding. And he didn't have any of that. He had vindictive, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, the one where you don't like them based on just where they're from.
It's called being like a bigot. Yeah.
Bigot. That's the word. Mate, the conversations I have with my husband on trying to, you know the word I'm talking about? No, I don't know the word. I've got no idea what you're talking about. His grandmam was just a bigot. Your district.
Huge. Shit. They're animals.
Yeah, they're animals. They're feral. They're basically
primal.
Yeah. And Tigress, while she was sweet, I think, and understanding, she had zero strength. Not zero, because that's wrong. She survived the war. So she does have some.
Yes, but we'll get into Tigress a little bit.
Yes.
As well. But we'll get there.
I think it's a bit of both, but I don't think he was ever going to be. There was no... I'll explain later on what I think.
Okay. Moving on.
How do you view the way the capital treats their youth versus how they treat the youth of the districts? And I like this question. This question is really good.
Okay. So the same but different.
Oh my God, my notes say same but different.
We're like same wavelength. So the capital exploits children, period. It doesn't matter, capital or district. But the district children are seen as rebel children who are dehumanized, likened to animals, scum of the earth, etc.
Yeah.
However, the children of the capital are exploited to become tyrannical, even though you can see throughout Ballad the struggle that some of them have with accepting what is going on.
I feel like they put, especially in this book, so we have the Hunger Games, and they've concocted some bloody reason on why they've got to have it. We all know it's bullshit. But watching the mentors in these games, they had their own games, which was the prizes at the end of this Hunger Games. If your tribute wins, if you can do this, if you can do that, then you get the Plinth prize. You get that scholarship to university, but you got to fight for it. You got to prove to us that you really want it. And in doing that, they exploit or they manipulate their situations. They lie, cheat, steal. They come up with these outlandish ideas to help their progress within the games so that way they can win these prizes. So I was actually talking to my eldest about this. It's life or death, but differently. It's life or death in the arena. Quite literally, it's life or death.
Yes, and I have a comment about that too.
But in the capital, it's life or death socially. It's social suicide.
Exactly.
To side with a tribute or to side with the districts or to not view the games as entertainment.
I actually had the capital is its own Hunger Games, except it's continuous and it's less about physical prowess and more about social status.
Yes.
Standing.
And I feel that gets more prevalent as you go into the other books, because we see in Sunrise on the Reaping that if you're not up to the game is as a stylist, as I don't know what you'd call Effie and the others, but like a district coordinator, so to speak. I don't know if they have an actual specific job title, but if you're not up to it, you get the shitty districts.
Exactly.
Well, what they class as shitty districts. You don't get the ones that have the kids that have trained to fight in the arena. You don't get the ones that have more money. You don't get the ones that's easier to design costumes. They're still pitting the capital citizens against each other.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yep. I have a couple of examples too. So Tigress, in the very beginning, there's a part in there where basically Coriolanus says that she is supposed to be an apprentice, but she actually is more like slave labor because she has to do all of these things like give foot massages to her boss and run her errands and all this crap.
And clean up after her parties and like whatever.
So again, child labor. Also, the capital children are used by Dr. Gall to make murder more palatable to the world, even though multiple students question the assignment.
Crazy ass bitch.
So Clemencia who's one of the mentors with Coriolanus, says the real problem is it's sickening to watch. And the thought of betting on tributes is gruesome. Like she's not fully invested. Lysistrata, another one of the mentors, says most of us are basically decent people and most of us don't want to watch other people suffer.
Yes. I liked her.
I liked her too. And then, of course, we have Sejanus, who is, he comes from District 2. He is part of the litter of district children, and he objects immensely, saying it goes against the rules of nature for humans to want to kill their young. And he questions the morality of the entire concept, saying maybe the real question is, why are we doing this? And he's classed as, oh, you're a rebel sympathizer then, hey.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh. And then Dr. Gall sends Snow to District 12 to further his education, letting him believe he's being punished for cheating.
I can't wait until we get further into the podcast to discuss those two, because like I have so much to say on that. I have so many thoughts.
But those were all of my points about the fact that it doesn't matter if you're capital or district. As a child, you are exploited, period, point blank.
I feel like it's citizens in general within the capital, within the districts, they're exploited.
Yeah, but it starts from childhood, right?
Yeah.
And it's heritage based as well, right? So if your auntie or uncle participated in cannibalism, you're a piece of shit in the capital.
Or if you don't live, what's it called? The Crosso is where Snow lives. Was it Croso?
Maybe. I can't remember, but
wherever they live,
that row,
that little building, that whole area, if you're not from there, then are you really any better than the districts?
Exactly.
Because we find out that when everything that's happening, they're going to lose their house, their home that they've had for generations, and the grandmam's going to have to be forced to live in like a shoebox on the outskirts of town. No. I'm like, you're still in the capital, douchebag. No, it's taking your kids and putting them in the arena. Jesus.
But it's still viewed as...
But it's still social suicide. That's it. You don't...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you view Lucy Gray throughout the entirety of the book.
I really liked her. Book, I loved her in the book.
Yeah, we're not talking movie here, people.
We're not talking movie here. We're talking book.
This is book canon.
This is just book canon. I loved her in the book. There's that whole debate on whose parents are whose. But she has a very similar way of thinking to Katniss. She's got that inner strength we were talking about before. But at the same time, she's got compassion. And she understands the way of the world. I quite liked her development throughout the whole book. She starts off making a stand with the mayor's daughter, but you still see that vulnerability when he slaps her and she's almost in tears.
Yeah.
Like she's holding it all together. And then she's like, screw it, I'm just going to sing and I'm going to make myself known. And then we watch her development through the games and that whole mentor program and the way she can still communicate with Snow, where you watch all the other tributes, they don't want to. They either don't want to or they've got no time for their mentors. Like, fuck you, basically. You're here to help me die. Go away. But in the other aspects, the mentors are the same with their tributes. They're like, would you just, I'm trying to help you. You're not, you're trying to help yourself. Where she was able to engage and communicate with him from the get-go on that train station. She just was able to get him to understand her a little bit. But then as it goes on, she realizes that he's a nutbag.
I had strong, mysterious, intelligent.
Very intelligent.
She's definitely a team player.
Yep.
Survivor.
That was going to be my next point.
Yeah, she's definitely...
She's a survivor.
So when we say survivor, that means something different in the districts than it does in the capital. Because to survive in the districts, literally life and death. And in some ways, in the capital, it's life or death, depending upon how poor you are.
Yeah.
Or how much you're in poverty. But also you have this social suicide aspect to the capital as well. I also at times thought to myself, who's playing who here? Because she's pretty good at charming and manipulating to get what she wants or needs.
Yes. She worked, and I think that comes a lot from her Covey heritage with her playing, like the way they made their money was to go and play at functions within the district. So she had to perform. Yes. If she didn't perform, they would be like, no, I'm not paying you for that. So no, you're not getting paid. So if she didn't perform, if she didn't manipulate her audience into, I suppose, enjoying themselves or giving them what she wanted, then she was not going to get paid.
And I think too, with the title of the book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, snakes are a big part of this book and they're a big part of Lucy Gray. And she is somewhat of a snake charmer. When the Covey is described, it makes Coriolanus think of the circuses that he attended as a kid and all of the bright lights and colors and animals that were at the circus. And back in the day, there used to be snake charmers at the circus. So she quite literally charms a snake.
When we're talking about characters, right, we've got like characters and stuff that we're discussing. I'm quite literally, one of my points on her is that, of course, she charmed him. He's a fucking viper and she's a snake charmer.
Exactly.
Like I can just see him doing that snake thing as he comes up out of the basket because she definitely charmed him.
For sure.
Okay, now let's cover observations we made while reading the book and on the order that it was written. So let's start with the mentor.
I was torn through a lot of the first part of the book because
you were very torn.
Yeah, because this is where you see a lot of his inner dialogue and he is grappling with these concepts and whether they're good or evil or right or wrong or why do I think the way that I do? For example, he's given an assignment by Dr. Gall to write about what he liked about the war. He's like, what do you mean what I liked about the war? I didn't like anything about the war.
I feel, so we all know that this book is about Snow, but I feel like with the other books, there's a lot about Peeta and Gale and On Sunrise on the Reaping. That's all about Hamish. And this, I feel like while the other three books were about Katniss, it was also about the rebellion. It was also about you had the dynamic with her, Peeta, and yeah, look. And all mine are up the top here. But with the last two she's written, this one is all about Snow. When you look at the way it's broken down, the mentor, the games, the Peacekeeper, and then the epilogue, this is all about Snow, and it is all about his, as you said during the week, like his descent and going downhill. For me, it's more about him embracing who he really is, because I don't for a second think that man ever had a good bone in his body. Yeah. I know you do. I do not. That man is evil through and through. And it wasn't until towards the end of the book where he went, oh, yeah, maybe I am. And I'll just go along with that. But I feel like this part and the games were his most caring part in the book. I don't know if he truly cared.
Or if he emulated the correct emotions.
If he cared because it affected him. It affected him because, I've got a shit. Like, she's a girl and she's from District 12 and she looks like she's about to fall over because she's starving to death. That doesn't help me. So he cared then because he needed something. So this was what affected him. Him being a mentor, if I can get the Plinth prize, then we won't have to worry about money. We won't have to worry about this. And I can fulfill the grandmam's dream of being president, right? It affected him, so he cared.
One of the things that I had underlined was just a small little paragraph where it says, Coriolanus could sense the audience beginning to warm up to his tribute, no longer bothering to keep their distance. People were easy to manipulate when it came to their children. So
he's not wrong.
But that then begs the question, why doesn't he understand that he's being manipulated? Or does he?
I don't think it's yet. I don't think he understands as yet. I think towards the end of the book, yes, he 100% knows that he was manipulated. And he had a fantastic teacher in that manipulation, let's be honest. Like, the grandmam was good with all their feral, their monsters. They're just one step above animalistic beings, right? But then you add in Dr. Gull, and his teacher on manipulation is world class, right? Like, let's be honest, world class.
Yeah.
So I don't think now he realizes that he's been manipulated. And if you then look at him in the later books, Sunrise on the Reaping, and you look at him in the original trilogy, you can go, oh, yeah, he's worked out how to do manipulation perfectly.
Then a little bit later, he says something about if Lucy Gray's brave enough to be there, shouldn't he be when he's in the pen in the zoo? And she says, oh, for the record, I didn't have a choice.
Yes.
And I was like, damn.
Yeah, if she's brave enough to be here. Wow. Yeah, she has no choice, buddy.
We also learn in the first part of the book that the games already exist. There's already genetic mutations mutations happening because Dr. Gall is crazy as shit. And
they already had the mutts because they had the Jabberjays.
Yeah, but she's...
Oh, yeah, she takes it to the next level.
Yeah, she takes it way beyond.
Nutbag. Have you got another point for this, the mentor part, or are we moving on to the games?
I'm getting there.
See, this is why I started putting them in my phone, so I didn't have to try and go through the book.
There's a part where he's talking about his mother and how beautiful she looked and how she sang to him and how he loved her smell, and it was just so nurturing. And so I wrote, so at some point, Snow actually felt loved, but that was before the age of 5.
No, I think he felt loved the whole time. I also think he felt he deserved that love. He knows.
I don't think so.
He knows that Tigress loves him. He knows that. And he knows that Lucy Gray had affections for him. He just feels like he deserves that regardless of what he does. Because he's a Snow. I think he felt like he deserved that love. He deserved the love. He deserved the appreciation. He deserves the accolades. He's the smartest in the school, right? So why should anybody else get these prizes?
But we also learn in this portion of the book about Sejanus being from the district, him being absolutely against what's going on. And he is at every turn either feeling guilty or embarrassed or trying everything he can to help, because he, as a punishment, is assigned the boy that he went to school with from District 2.
I don't know if that was his dad. So I know in the book, Sejanus says that his dad bought Marcus for him. He wanted Sejanus to have Marcus as a tribute. So that way Sejanus could see the difference between him and Marcus now, right? I don't actually think it was his dad. I know it's never specifically said, but I 100% think it was Dr. Come on. As if that doctor wouldn't have been like, oh, this will be hilarious. Let's team them two up.
I also think that we get a justification from Snow even in the very beginning, where he discovers Lucy Gray's background as being Covey, and she explains to him that no, we're not really District 12. We were rounded up and we were put in District 12, but we've been traveling, we're traveling musicians, etc. And so he justifies his relationship with her by she's not District.
She's not District.
Which I found super interesting, right?
Well, yes, because he couldn't justify a relationship with her otherwise.
We also find out in this portion of the book that Dean Highbottom came up with the games as a joke.
Do you find out it was a joke then, or do you find out that it was a joke later when he's talking about his dad? Oh, that's right. Yeah, when their own Dean Highbottom came up with this, and he was like, as a joke. Yeah,
and he says it was just theoretical.
Yeah, it was just theoretical.
So we don't learn the whole background, but we learn that Highbottom is a drug addict as much as possible and is high almost most of the book. And
from morning to night.
Yes. And he doesn't like Snow. That's right off the bat. He makes fun of him. He's, look at you in your too tight shoes and da-da-da.
And your dad's top.
Yeah, exactly. And Tesserae for buttons. So he knows. And just the like general dehumanization that's going on in the mentor part of the book, and the way that they treat the tributes when mentors who are cruel to the tributes end up getting unalived and then are paraded through the streets, either being dragged or hung from a crane while the capital child's funeral is happening at the same time.
I feel like, so when you initially read the original trilogy, you're like, wow, that's pretty violent. I don't know about you, but does it feel like in these two, like the last two, so in Ballad and in Sunrise on the Reaping, that she got a little bit more violent?
Who?
Suzanne Collins. Like, we know, but the descriptions, as you said, at those funerals, I was just like, that is some world-class bullshit right there. That is just vile. If you are a city, a country that promotes or goes, yeah, okay, that funeral procession with kids being handcuffed and dragged along behind it while the ones that you deem responsible are hanging from fishhooks from a crane and swinging in the breeze or dragged along dead bodies behind this procession for some other kid. If you find that okay and justifiable, you are certifiably insane along with all your citizens. There's just no justification for that amount of viciousness and just atrocity. It's an atrocity. I was reading that going, oh yeah, there's no way they could put that in the movie. Whew.
We also learn that Tigress isn't as innocent as Snow thinks that she is, because it's alluded to that
she's done something,
sold herself or committed cannibalism or whatever to survive. I also caught this little Easter egg, which you're going to be like, oh my gosh. There's a line in here where it says, but they say hardly anyone in the district saw it, Grandmam, Tigress countered. The people there don't like to watch the Hunger Games coverage. It will only take a handful to get the word out, said Grandmam. It's just the kind of story that catches fire.
Yeah, I know.
Did you catch that?
Oh, I caught it. Hang on. What page is that?
145. And I was like, oh, shut up.
Wait, I will read you. Where is it? 145, 48. Fire is catching, Grandmam, was what I wrote. And then underneath it on another one, if we burn, you burn.
Exactly.
I was like, too bad you were dead by then, grandmam.
Yeah. She was already ancient in this book, so
I know.
she wouldn't
She
have
was
seen
never
it.
going to make it.
Yeah. But that's all I had for the first part of the book.
All right. So games.
You start us off.
All right. So for me, as I said before, I think there are two types of games going on. We have the games, we have the arena, we have the Hunger Games. Those children are going to survive, have to kill each other. But this is probably going to sound really horrible, but the game I found more interesting was the game between the mentors. Because we know that, yes, Snow was given, not only was he given the task of writing up suggestions to help improve the games, what's going to get everybody to watch. We go through that in the mentor. In this second one, it's the way they're competing with each other. One of their ones does something good and they're like, or they kill someone. And my biggest one for this was when Marcus, we see the game start and we see Marcus hanging up there. He managed to escape after the bombing of the arena.
And let me just tell you, it's far more brutal in the book than what the movie showed. I had to put the book down.
100 times more brutal. And it was Lamina?
Yes.
So Marcus is still alive, right? And no doubt, and I got this correlation between the way Katniss takes care of Cato and the way Lamina takes care of Marcus. She does him a service by killing him, basically, because that kid's still alive. He's hanging there, still alive.
He's suffering.
Yeah. And her mentors are like, yeah, look at her go. She killed someone. And I'm like, dude, you can't even see that she did that as a mercy. That was a mercy killing. That had nothing to do with trying to win. And he's super stoked. Oh, I'm going to send her some water and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And all the other tributes get shitty, including Snow. Even though he wants Lucy Gray to survive and he says he's in love with her, he's not. He says he is. I feel like he's infatuated with her and he wants her to survive. He still gets annoyed. Like, how is he going to compete? How is he going to get Lucy Gray to stand out in the arena now? Because he can't talk to her, he can't coach her, blah, blah, blah.
But also on that note, some of the things that happen, like, for example, between Snow and Clemencia. So when they do that paper and Snow has written it and it is supposed to be a group project, Snow is actually trying to cover for her and be like, look, I got you. And she's okay, just tell me what it's about so I know what I'm going in here for and telling Dr. Gall and this and that and the other. And it's Dr. Gall who essentially annihilates her.
That crazy bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Because she sticks the report into the snake pit where the snakes, if they don't have your scent,
will attack you.
But that Snow didn't know that was going to happen.
No, he had no clue.
He had no idea. So in that instance, he wasn't trying to he was not actively trying to screw her over.
No, and that's what I mean though. With these whole games, he wants to be a standout student. But these games have pitted. I feel like if Dr. Gold was a real person, she would be sitting back watching this. She'd have 2 sets of game monitors, one for the arena with the district kids, one for the school classroom, where she can watch those kids go up against each other and pit themselves against each other. And she can just sit back and go, ha, this is entertaining as shit. Because I feel like she knew full well what she was doing when she pitted them all against each other. We've got so many, look, like, he's crossing off people left and center on the list of tributes. And people are getting angry that, well, that's them done. They're out of the games now. They're not going to get any more credit for their assignment. And I'm just like, I don't know which is more vicious. One is to survive. And we all know that it's human nature for us to want to survive, like actually live. I'm talking about keep breathing, live.
Let's talk a little bit about Lucy Gray and Snow's relationship development in the second part during the games and the interviews and the things that are going on. He narcissistically possessive, obsessive over her. Like she is his.
He's a narcissistic prick.
And then she sings the interview song. So the interview song is the same in the movie as it is in the book. However, in the book, what is different in the books is Snow isn't watching this interview on a television. He's is there live beside her backstage, watching her sing this. And when she comes off stage, he's jealous because he knows that song isn't about him. And she's calling somebody lover. I thought that I was like, oh, Lord. Red flag, red flag.
He's just a walking, not in a good way, walking red flag. He's just a red flag. And that's what I was saying before about Snow. I don't think there's any care factor in the man. I think it's all about him. So she's there fighting for her. She's going to be fighting for her life, fighting to survive. She's been ripped away from her home. And we know it was an unjust reaping. Her name wasn't miraculously pulled out. No, she was purposely pulled out because
Mayor's daughter was dating the same boy that she was.
That's right. So she wanted to get rid of her. So we know that she's there fighting for her life. And in all that, he still can't look at her and go, fuck, this is unfair to you because it's an unfair situation. He listens to her song, which she's singing for her life to try and get people. She's pouring her heart out as an artist to a bunch of people that want to watch her die.
Yes, and it's very poignant, too, because when he tries to get her to sing, she says, is this only going to air in the Capitol or is it going to be all of Panem? And he says, I think it's all of Panem. And she says, maybe I will then.
Yeah, that's right. Because before that, she was like, I don't sing for you. I sing for me. I sing when I want to, when I've got something to say. So she's done all this to inform her lover that, yeah, mate, it's because of you stupid floozy in town that I'm here.
And how bad are you going to feel when I'm dead?
And how bad are you going to feel when I'm dead? It wasn't even a love song to him. It was literally a fuck you and your bullshit.
It was one of those.
It was one of those. And he's standing on the sidelines. What do you mean?
What do you mean it's not about me?
Yeah. Why isn't it about me? She likes someone before me? How dare she?
And I have this tabbed. It's the beginning of chapter 12, and it says, and last but least, District 12 girl, she belongs to Coriolanus Snow. Things might have been quite different if you hadn't landed your little rainbow girl. The truth is, we were all so busy killing each other that we forgot how to have fun. She knows, though, your girl. His girl. His. Here in the Capitol, it was a given that Lucy Gray belonged to him, as if she'd had no life before her name was called out at the reaping.
Yep.
Like, how fucked up is that?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. When I say to you, I know that you're like, he did. There was a turning point. No, there wasn't, because that man, it's always about him. Everything belongs to him and it's due him. He's just, and in this game, as I said, I was more interested in the game between all the mentors than I was between the actual district tributes. You know what I had wished though? I really wish that Clemmy had to come out swinging. Like, I know she's a little bit bat crap crazy now because of what she went through when she stuck her hand in the snakes and Dr. Gull's, if she died. She reminded me of Rocky 4. If she dies, like, man, more kids where they came from. People just keep popping them out. But I really had have wished after everything that she went through, because that woman would know exactly how crazy. I know that Snow knows, but Snow's too terrified to say anything to anyone. Plus, he doesn't really care deep down. He's like, whatevs. But she knows.
Did you catch the Easter egg that's on 173? Where she says, I'm going to fight like all fire to win these games.
All fire!
And I was like, oh, that's where that came from.
See, and this is what I'm saying to you, right? Because there's another spot where you can look, maybe I do agree with you, because I know that there's lots of fan canon going around that Maud Ivory is Lenore Dove's grandmother, or that's the line, is Maud Ivory through to Lenore Dove. I don't know about that. Me personally, I'm of the opinion that it's probably Lucy Gray, personally, with Lenore, because of things like All Fire. And there's another one later on where I'm like, oh.
But here's where, like, me being torn. Here's an example, right? So it says, as he walked back to the apartment to prepare for his final meeting with Lucy Gray, he ruminated over the likelihood that she'd be dead by the same time tomorrow.
Mm.
The previous night's jealousy over her loser of a boyfriend and the way her star quality sometimes outshone his own evaporated. He felt remarkably close to her, this girl who dropped into his life so unexpectedly and with such style. And it wasn't just about the accolades she'd brought him. He was genuinely fond of her, far more than he was of most of the girls he knew in the capital. If she could survive, oh sweet, only if, how could they keep but have a lifelong connection? See, and that's the shit that's in there that I'm like, damn it.
No, because he wouldn't need to add the things like, it's not the accolades she's brought me. He's justifying the way he feels. Oh no, I do feel close to her. It's not just because of the accolades. No, I swear, it's not just the accolades. I do actually like the girl. Do you though?
When you get to the epilogue, I think you find that out.
Okay.
We'll keep going.
Okay.
We'll keep going.
Okay.
But anyways, also, the movie starts out with the Plinth Prize. No, that shit doesn't even come into play until Sejanus loses his shit, breaks a TV, busts into the arena to perform like the District 2 religious woo so that he can feed the dead on their way to the next life or whatever. And Corio has to go in and save his ass. And it was after that they introduced, oh, by the way.
Yes, I know. Get back on book canon, dear. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the next part.
Okay.
The Peacekeeper.
Go. So he doesn't know he's being manipulated. We don't know. We don't know that he's being manipulated.
We don't know. That's right.
So we're reading it as he's fucked up. Dean Highbottom is finally shipping his ass off because Highbottom sees straight through him.
And I feel like Highbottom didn't know either. Like, he didn't know that this was actually what Dr. Gull had planned.
Exactly. I don't think he knew either. However, we also learn, well, in the prize portion of the book, we learn more about Dean Highbottom and how, and I think it's also in the Peacekeeper portion. So I think they overlap. But basically, you learn that Highbottom was out with Crassus Snow drinking, and their assignment was to come up with a punishment for the districts for rebelling and make it really vile so that they don't ever forget. And as a joke, in a drunken stupor, Highbottom's, yeah, let's just put the district children in an arena, blah, blah, blah.
I actually think that was an assignment before the war started. How would you control people? Because when they handed it in, Crassus Snow handed it in.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, are you fucking joking? That wasn't a real thing. And
that was a private joke at a we were out.
Yeah. And then after the war, it was Dr. Gull that was like, hey, you remember this paper you wrote? Let's go. We're now going to make it a reality.
Yeah.
I feel like poor Highbottom would have been like, man, if that fucker wasn't dead, I'd kill him.
And I think it's very telling too, because you can tell the characters who, and it's not just capital characters, you can tell the characters who are the most emotionally devastated, who suffer the most complex PTSD because they become addicts of one form or another, whether it's morphling or hooch or whatever, because they just cannot deal with the reality of what they've done or what they've had to do or what has been or what has been done to them.
Yeah, or what they've been made to be a part of. If they had no choice. But Dean Highbottom came up with this stupid idea, which he said himself, it was just a joke. Like, it was just and I'm going to talk a little bit about Dean Highbottom when we get a little bit further along. But he's come up with this idea and all of a sudden it's being used against him. And not only is it being used against him, he's also being made to participate when they know full well he doesn't want to. So in this Peacekeeper portion, when we all think that Snow's like getting punished, he's fucked and there's nothing you can do about it right now. He's never making it back to the capital. That's it. He's done now. He's living out in the districts, which is death probably would have been a kinder punishment to Snow than making him live in a district as a Peacekeeper, right? And that is, for me, that is, I think, Snow's main struggle in this. This is where he goes, yeah, I don't actually think I care about anyone but me. I care about my social standing. I care about money. I care about making sure I look good. I care about being the best because I am the best and Snow always lands on top.
Mm.
And to be shoved out as a peacekeeper, the only good thing he got from this was that he got to choose District 12 so he could go and see Lucy Gray. That was his silver lining in this. And even that was not enough.
No, I think we'll get to that later, but I thought that I know that in filming, like there are sacrifices that you have to make, but I thought there was too many sacrifices made concerning the Covey because there were so many more scenes for the Covey in the Peacekeeper portion of the book.
Yeah.
So we see them perform at least 3 times, one of them being the base commander's birthday.
Mm.
So let's see. Snow's breaking point. I have it marked.
Do you though? Because there wasn't one.
477. The news improved everyone's spirits, and the update to their afternoon schedule gave Coriolanus some satisfaction. Instead of shooting at targets, they were cleared to take out the jabberjays and mockingjays at the hanging tree. Their chorus following Sejanus's final outcry had been the last straw. So I think, look, was he ever Sejanus's friend? No. He absolutely utilized him because of who his dad was. But having said that, I think because Sejanus was who he was, I think Snow didn't think through what he did and afterwards went into a tailspin about it. And then when Sejanus actually does end up getting sentenced to the hanging tree, the mockingjay cries repeating Sejanus's voice saying "Ma." I think that was when he just snapped. That's when the sociopathy fully snapped into place.
Nope.
Yep.
He was always a sociopath. He just hit it better. See,
this is where we disagree because I think
this is where we disagree. He had no heart. He never had a heart. Tin Man, no heart. Done. Didn't even want one.
Disagree.
Nope. Didn't even want one.
I disagree. You can't tell me that a 5-year-old doesn't have a heart.
Oh, I can. Look.
Who?
All right.
Give me an example.
My daughter.
That's not true. She cuddles with me.
She does cuddle with you. No, okay. I feel like we're giving the bastard too much credit. Okay? I don't think he ever had a heart. Snow was all out for himself. I feel like when and this is still in the Peacekeeper portion, right? When he realized, oh, yep, he's going to run away with Lucy Gray, and then they get to the cabin, he's umming and ahhing about this, right? From the get-go. It gets worse when he's, oh, you know what? The commander's like, hey, congrats, dude. You're going to go and be an officer. Woo! Youngest dude ever. You're so smart. You're so awesome. And he's, yeah, I'm so smart and awesome. They get to the cabin. So he still goes with Lucy Gray and he gets to the cabin because there's only one thing holding him back from everything he's ever wanted in his life. And that's the gun with his prints, right?
Yeah.
Because he shoots. Yeah. His DNA all over it because he shoots. Was it Billy? No, it was the mayor's daughter. He shot the mayor's daughter.
He shot Mayfair.
Yeah. So he shot Mayfair, and that's the only thing holding him back from everything he's ever wanted. And he gets that confirmation when he gets into officer school. I'm still fucked anyway, because if they find that gun, I'm dying. I honestly don't think he would have. I honestly think she's district, so what the fuck are they going to care? All he has to do is say she was trying to be a rebel. I was trying to stop all this. His main concern is that he will be associated with the rebels. I don't think he would have been because he sent that Jabberjay off with Janus's confession. He gets to the lake. They go into the house. He's already cranky pants because Lucy Gray is not giving him exactly all the love and attention and blah, blah, bloody blah that he wants, right? And then he sees the guns.
Yep.
And then it's like that moment he's like, yes!
I'm free.
I'm free! And
I think it's more complex than that, though, right? Because so nature scares the shit out of Snow. Nature in general, Mother Nature. Okay. I'm talking about because it is uncontrollable. It's unpredictable. It wild. It's all of the things that he cannot control, right? I think his views on nature are really reflective of the fact that he's terrified of himself outside of the capital, because inside the capital, he feels more control, if that makes sense, or more of a sense of control, whereas he views the districts as the wild. And then I loved that on 494, he's doing this whole bullshit where he says that he killed 3 people, and Lucy Gray's who's the third. And he's like, myself. And she says,
and she's like, bullshit, you narcissistic
well,
prick.
I hope old you doesn't haunt new you. We've already got enough ghosts between the both of us. But I loved that because in the end, Snow is haunted for the rest of his life. For the rest of his life. And unfortunately, everybody else pays for that.
Yep.
It was crazy because when the entire scene is over, so he shoots at Lucy Gray, but when he goes to where he thinks she's fallen, she's not there. Then he hears her sing. The Mockingjays pick up her tune, and he doesn't find her. He decides he's just going to go back to base, right? What I found super interesting about his walk back to the base is the only thing that survived that entire excursion was his father's compass.
So he's more like his dad than his mother.
Yes.
His mother, according to Dean Highbottom, his mother's a vapid bitch. So, you know.
Because he saved the rose-scented powder and all of that, and it's all destroyed from the rain. And the only remaining thing that he has of his family is his father's compass.
All right. So we're talking about Snow. I'm trying to find this one bit. And I know I tabbed it and I know I marked it down, but it doesn't seem to be where I marked it.
And then at the end, he says, this I have marked to deep dive on the podcast. Coriolanus remembered the conversation he'd had with Sejanus as they'd unpacked his duffel. I'd elaborate on it. They're not just to punish the districts. They're part of an eternal war. Each one is its own battle. One we can hold in the palm of our hand instead of waging a real war that can get out of control. She swung a mouse away from a gaping mouth. You there, don't be greedy. And they're a reminder of what we did to each other, what we have the potential to do again because of who we are, he continued. And who are we, did you determine, she asked. And this is Dr. Gall talking to him. Creatures who need the capitals to survive. He couldn't help getting in a dig. It's all pointless, though, the Hunger Games. No one in 12 even watches except for the reaping. We didn't even have a working television on base. While that could be a problem for the future, it's a blessing this year, given that I've had to erase the whole mess, said Dr. Gall. It was a mistake getting the students mixed up in it, especially when they started dropping like flies. Presented the capital as far too vulnerable. You erased it. Every last copy gone, never to be aired again. So this is why District 12 has no knowledge of Lucy Gray.
Except for her own
peeps.
All right. So I have found it. I know you think that this man had just a little bit, right, of a heart somewhere in there. Maybe like the left ventricle or some shit. Who knows?
The part I'm missing? That's fucked up.
But I'm telling you that this bastard had nothing. Okay? Nothing. Zip, zilch, nada, not a thing. Okay? And here is the reason why. This is on page 439. Okay?
Okay, hold on. I'm flipping. Oh, I have it marked. Okay.
I'll bet you do. So he is at the lake house with all of the Covey, except for a couple of them. Mortar. Barbara Giro's like back home, and I think Tam Amber might be too. I don't know. Anyway, right? Oh, no, it's just Barb. She's by herself. So he's there having a lovely day, swimming and fishing, and it all looks amazing. This is why this man has no heart. This sums it up right here. Listening to the birds, Coriolanus noticed the absence of jabberjays. The only explanation he could think of was that the mockingjays had begun to reproduce without them, either with one another or with the local mockingbirds. This elimination of the capital birds from the equation deeply disturbed him. Here they were, multiplying like rabbits, completely unchecked, unauthorized, co-opting capital technology. He didn't like it one bit.
Yeah. And then you
whole entire paragraph sums up that man.
And then you go to the opposite page before that, and he's talking about how, so Lucy Gray is singing to Maud Ivory, and he says, the song quieted Maud Ivory, and Coriolanus felt his anxieties melt away. Full of fresh food, shaded by the trees, Lucy Gray singing softly beside him, he began to appreciate nature. It really was beautiful out here. The crystal clean air, the lush colors. He felt so relaxed and free. What if this was his life, rising whenever, catching his food for the day, and hanging out with Lucy Gray by the lake? Who needed wealth and success and power when they had love? Didn't it conquer all? So that, set beside what you just read, that still tells me like he's two minds.
No, he's
There's
not
like
two minds.
two things happening at the same time.
No,
I think so.
Absolutely not.
Suzanne Collins, I'm going to need you to come in and referee.
Yeah, weigh in on this. We need a referee here because they're absolutely not. In the next breath, the next sentence is fuck them all. How dare they?
But this is also more evidence that I think he's a sociopath.
He's a fucking douchebag.
Okay. So loved all the songs as well. They were great. And when you read the Ballad of Lucy Gray, it is poignant that Lucy Gray disappears due to a snowstorm.
Yeah.
And even Maud Ivory comments about how Coriolanus Snow, your name sounds like Covey because Snow's white. So I bet that haunted him for the rest of his life.
That whole scene with Maud Ivory and, you know, how she holds his hand and she walks with him and all of this stuff. And I am
he carries her.
And I am just like, yeah, because he's in the shits about the bloody Mockingjays. Doesn't want to talk to anyone. How dare they use capital technology to better themselves? You want to know my notes, right? This is my notes. Listen to my notes on that section. So this is my notes. The correlation between the Jabberjay, Mockingbird, the untamable, the smart, the uncatchable. He hates everything about that because he has zero control over it, right? Your issue, Snow, do you hear yourself? Your fear of the Mockingjay is for its ability to adapt, to thrive, and to overcome without you.
The capital.
Which is him. He is dead set the capital. He's a walking capital. Look at me. All right. Poster child for the capital. Okay. But that whole scene with Maud Ivory, I was like, when she first meets him and she holds his hand, she takes his hand and I'm like, oh, sweetheart, run. Please run away now before he gets you.
Okay, so let's move on to the epilogue.
Okay.
So we find out in the epilogue that he comes up with the Victor's Village. He's the one that comes up with, if your tribute wins, your district gets an extra parcel of food. He's the one that comes up with, he becomes an apprentice game maker, yeah. So he evolves the games into what they become when we get to the original trilogy, right? He ends up being the heir to the Plinth fortune because the Sejanus's parents believe that he was Sejanus's best friend and he did everything for Sejanus, and Sejanus was just wayward. And
the manipulation on his part with that was just phenomenal. If he was a real person, take aim, everyone. Because what a CUNT.
And then he takes Morphling to High Bottom's office, throws it in the trash can, laces it with rat poison.
He's descent into, what is it? Like
psychopathy.
His poisoning era.
Yeah. Stop it.
What?
I don't even want to talk about the gumdrops.
That's what I'm saying there. So this is his descent. So his first victim is not only Lucy Gray, because I will count all of District 12 as his first victim. I know he doesn't kill Lucy Gray. I'm saying they are still victims of fucking Snow. Right?
I think his first victims were when he gives her that compact and tells her to put rat poison in it. So he's actually responsible for poisoning some tributes.
Yeah. All right. Look. Okay. Maybe. Right. But
Mhm.
I feel like
Continue
one of
on.
his first victims, yes, is Sejanus, but it's also District 12. But I'm talking about his poisoning era. He's embraced his full snake, right? He's become the viper that he is.
Yep.
And that's his weapon of choice, right? Which, if you know your stuff, right, the people that poison people as a tool for murdering or death or whatever are usually women. Says a lot about you, Snow. We can still kick your ass, you dick. And he was beaten by a woman. Suck on that.
A couple of times.
Exactly. Deserves it. Bastard. But I think this is where it all started for him with his poisoning. Not just himself and everyone else, but I think it was Highbottom. Because it's the easiest way, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The reason most women will poison someone is because they don't have the physical strength to
do it with their bare hands. Yeah.
Do it with their bare hands, do it with a weapon or anything like that.
Or they don't have the stomach to use a knife or
they don't have the stomach, which leans credence to the fact that Snow is a spineless twat. This is his descent. Like, all my notes on this just say, asshole. That's all I've got for this epilogue. You're an asshole. How dare you use my Plinth like that, you prick.
We also find out that the commander has outlawed music in District 12 because music gets to the soul. You know what I mean? And Snow is pleased that there will be no more music.
I love the fact that she sings that song once. Lucy Gray sings Hanging Tree once. And damn, she did it in a good way, right? Because as we've established, she doesn't sing for them. She sings for her and when she has something to say. And at the commander's birthday, she's like, yeah, let's sing Hanging Tree. Why not? I love it. She sings it once and somehow Katniss still gets it.
Also, I had this marked as well. And this is where I say his feelings might have been a bit more genuine.
Nope.
Sometimes he would remember a moment of sweetness and almost wish things had ended differently. But it would never have worked out between them, even if he'd stayed. They were simply too different. And he didn't love the way that it made him feel stupid and vulnerable.
Are you reading that?
If he ever married, he'd choose someone incapable of swaying his heart. Someone he hated, even so that they could never manipulate him the way that Lucy Gray had. Never make him feel jealous or weak. Livia Cardew would be perfect. And he ends up marrying Livia Cardew, by the way.
You are reading that and realizing that he justifies everything he does and everything he says and everything he thinks. He can sit there and go, oh, yeah, I think love's grand. But the second you come out, this is exactly what he does. No offense, right? No. When you say no offense, you 100% mean offense, okay? When you say love is great, but no, you're not saying love is great. You're justifying the fact that you don't have a heart. You are a heartless little shitbag. You are selfish, self-absorbed, self-righteous prick who only cares for who? Oneself.
I think she got to him, though. I think she absolutely was a snake charmer. He was the snake. He got manipulated.
It was infatuation.
She figured it all out. But it doesn't matter if it was infatuation or love. For him, it was what love looked like, okay? So let's just say that. But in that sense, that particular emotion made him feel weak and vulnerable and easily manipulated and all of that. And so that's where he's fuck that. If I ever get married, I'm just going to marry somebody I can't fucking stand. So that way I know that I'll never be affected.
Yeah.
Because it's the things we love the most that destroy us. Okay. Do you think there was a turning point in the book where Snow snaps, so to speak?
But literally, my notes here.
We kind of you talked about this.
Maybe, but my opinion is that he was never going to be good.
I think Sejanus' death and the Mockingjays, and then when he gets into officer school as well.
I think it's officer school. When you say snap, I think you refer to it as, him no longer thinking, I suppose, in terms of good and evil. Like you feel like at times he had a conscience. I don't think he ever had a conscience. I think he likes to think he had a conscience. I think he thinks that everyone else thinks he should have a conscience. And I think he couldn't give a fuck. I believe that he is a villain. He is a true villain. And I believe his snap point was when he embraced his villainness and went, you know what? Yeah, I am a narcissistic prick and I don't want to run away with you because fuck you. I just want to be me. And I think that was when he got into officer school because he was really before officer school, he was like, I don't have a choice. I have to go. And then because if they find the gun, I'm fucked. Then when he gets officer school, he's like, oh, I could have had everything I wanted. This could have been another avenue into running Pan Am. I could have been president again, but I fucked it all because of this gun. I think that was like a little bit of a, oh, yep, I could have embraced my narcissistic prickness. I then think that his total snap point where he went, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm not running away. I'm going to get everything that I want now. And that's not you, Lucy Gray. Sorry, you're not on my priority list, was when he found the guns. I don't think he ever had a, oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to be good now moment. I think he just went, I'm going to be badder.
Okay. In your opinion, do you think that he chose to be the way that he was? Or do you think that mental health played any factor in that?
Mental health. What do you mean by mental health?
Sociopathy, psychopathy, narcissism. Those are all mental health conditions. Yes, they are.
Do I think he's a narcissistic prick? Yes. See, I'm okay because
it's not an excuse. It's more environment versus genetics.
We know he's got a bit of both because with his genetics with his dad and his vapid mother, kid was fucked from the get-go. Right. Yes, he's a narcissistic prick. Yes, he's a sociopath. Do I think that? I also think he wanted to be that way. I don't think he went, I don't have a choice. This is how I am. I think he fucking enjoyed it. And I'm going to get to why, okay, in a couple of points' time. I will explain why I think that in a couple of points' time.
So I think his role as the patriarch of the Snow family being thrust upon him at such a young age, where he is super malleable to accepting the bigotry and hate that is spewed from his grandmother's mouth.
Yes.
At the time where he is super impressionable is like a heavy influence on who he becomes throughout the text.
I will also go so far as to say with that, I agree with you. I also think that the pressure that was put on him by the grandmam.
Yeah.
And the Snow name. Yeah. The Snow name, the dynasty that is Snow. I don't think that helped because he embraced that pressure. It was his responsibility to be the president, to provide, to make sure they stayed in that home. Although he left it all up to Tigress, but yes.
I also think that going back to the premise that the capital experiences their own type of games, I think the environment of poverty and starvation led him to employ survival tactics that were useful in the capital, which would be deceit, manipulation, blackmail, etc.
I agree with you. We know that I agree with you to a certain extent, but then I look at characters such as Effie and I look at characters like Cinna, who were all still capital, and Tigress. Tigress was in the same fucking situation as him.
But she also goes a different direction so that she is no longer recognizable.
I know that. Who the fuck would want to be recognized as a relative of Snow's? Jesus. Not only do the districts hate you, but probably half the capital because he's killed half their family members. I'd be like, yep, change me.
But also too, a lot of it is like with Cinna and Effie. Effie is outcast because of something that her
grandparents did. I know.
Right.
I know. But and see, this is where I look at that and go, she was all for, we know that in Sunrise on the Reaping, she says, but the games are necessary. This is necessary. She fully believes that this shit is necessary.
It is necessary for her.
But she believes that the capital and the games are necessary to keep the survival of all the people and Panem, right? She does. She does.
But is that why she believes they're necessary?
Or
does she think it's necessary so that she has a fucking job?
No, I think she thinks it's necessary. Because by the time we get to Effie and all of them, they're so blasé about the games. Credit to Snow there. They're so blasé about this like horrendous thing that happens every fucking year that you can't help but in that first book be like, Effie, you bitch.
But
then
also,
you end up loving her.
but also that goes back to desensitization, right? So
I look at other characters and I go, they're not assholes. You're an asshole, Snow. Like that comment from Dean Highbottom where
no, I'm talking about Effie specifically, right? Because you're saying that she's so blasé by the time that we get to the trilogy. And I'm saying that is because for the last 40 whatever years, she's been desensitized to the games themselves.
I know, but she still has a fucking heart in there. You can see that when Katniss and Peeta are going back into the arena, even though she still at this point in time feels like the games are necessary for control, for keeping the districts and Panem functioning, it's heartbroken. And the prep teams are heartbroken. Their stylists are heartbroken. They're all heartbroken because of the simple fact that they've come to like and care for these two tributes that have already survived. She's fucking distraught over this. Snow would never have been distraught, ever, ever. So, historical significance that you noticed in the book. I know you noticed a lot, darling. So, give it to us.
Okay, so July 4th is Reaping Day. Excuse me? That was like, oh, that was painful. Because, so July 4th is Independence Day in the US.
Yeah.
And July 4th also marks the beginning of the decimation of basically the indigenous culture in America, as well as segregation and slavery and all of the things. I know they existed before, but that was the start of the US as a nation doing those things. So that was poignant. I loved how the entire play, Shakespearean play of Coriolanus, is woven into all of the books. So for anybody out there who doesn't know, Coriolanus is the name given to a Roman general after his military feats against the Volscians at Corioli. Following his success, others encouraged Coriolanus to pursue the consulship, which would be like the highest form in government at the time. But his disdain for the plebeians or the commoners and his mutual hostility with the tribunes, which would equate to the capital governors, lead to his banishment from Rome, i.e. the capital. So he gets sent away.
Yep.
So he's in exile, which is District 12, and he presents himself to the Volscians, which is District 12 people. He then leads them against the capital. So he takes part in a rebel plot to get away with Lucy Gray. But after he relents and agrees to a peace with the capital, i.e. he gets into officer school and decides, okay, I'm going back to the capital. And he is, in the end, killed by the Volscians, i.e. District 12.
Yes.
And you could even go deeper with that and say the Volscians are the Covey.
You could. You very much could. I think, so I know we both discussed the Shakespearean play and the tragedy that it is. I think a lot of the references to the 4th of July and everything like that, like we all know that the 4th of July is America's Independence Day. And I know that there's a lot of other like little instances within this that are very central to, I suppose, American history. It kind of flies over there. Every other... A lot of it flew over my head until you started speaking about it, obviously. And I expect that from most people who are not American who have read the book. Like, yes, we'll go, oh, for 4th of July, that's interesting because we all know that's America's Independence Day. But everything else, I put it into the perspective of, it's, for me, it's just a book about a dystopian, like what a reality could be like if we don't watch what we're doing.
Yep.
If we don't learn to get along, if we don't, as a world, not just one country, but as a world. But yes, there are very, like you've mentioned them all to me, all these points throughout the book where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, because for those who don't know, I majored in history, minored in English. So when things tickle my history brain, I'm like, I got to look this up. Suzanne Collins is very deliberate with everything that she writes, including the names of everyone. In this particular book, I also thought it was interesting that his dad's name is Crassus Xanthus Snow.
Yeah.
So Crassus comes from Marcus Licinius Crassus, who was a Roman general and statesman who played a key role in the transformation of the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. And he is often referred to as the richest man in Rome.
Yeah.
How good is that? And Xanthos actually exists in Greek mythology was a luxury city in Lycia.
Yes.
So Xanthos is telling that he is very used to luxury.
And we've discussed this, right? Suzanne Collins is a phenomenal writer. The interwoven aspects between all 5 of these books is just remarkable.
I also picked up on another one, and you probably wouldn't have picked up on this one either, as you're Aussie.
Because I'm Aussie, yeah.
But pluribus. So pluribus comes from e pluribus unum, which is a Latin phrase, and it means out of many one. And it's a nod to wealth and resources, and is the phrase that is printed on U.S. money.
Oh. No, I wouldn't have got that.
Yeah, because when I read that, I was like, oh, hold on, I know, that's on our money.
He does deal in the black market.
Exactly. And he's super resourceful.
Yes.
And side note, I loved his character.
Oh, I did love his character
I fucking loved his character.
And the fact that he was just so willing to help them.
Also interesting, Sejanus is also an interesting story from Rome. He actually was someone who rose to power, was denounced, and executed. Imagine that.
Oh, that poor boy. I can't with that boy. I just can't. All right, let's talk side characters. Tigress.
Okay, you start with Tigress because I know that you love her.
Love her. I love her. She is. So this is my notes. I love her. She is also a survivor. She was older during the war. Okay, so
I think their age difference cannot be more than 3 or 4 years.
No, it's not much. But in those 3 or 4 years, in respect to understanding and to, I suppose, acknowledging the destruction around her, she's going to understand it more than he ever would have.
Here's a question for you. Her being female and him being male, I know that the grandmam is a bigot, right? She is also from a different generation. Okay. Yes. So she existed during the dark days. Like she was growing up before then, or even during then. So she's a different generation. But do you think that this speaks to the more natural empathy that it exists in females than in males?
Yes. And I also think that her age has a factor in that. I also feel, though, that, and when you point out the grandmam, so the grandmam would have been not only raised, but lived the majority of her life in the era of the capital excellence, the same way that Snow, when he's president, is in the capital excellence. Like it's their brilliant era because they have control, they have everything they need, they have all the resources. So she's grown up in that. So yes, when the war starts and lived majority of her life, raised her kids in those eras. So the majority of her, and hence the reason they're such bigoted people, and that Snow's parents are exactly the same as her because they've enjoyed that luxury. Now, this war's happened and she's, fuck these districts. How dare they? They have no right to take all of this from me. And I feel like because of her age, Tigress has more understanding. She's lost her parents.
And she's had to do unthinkable things.
Yes. And they end up losing their maids and their household staff and everything like that. And she has to learn to cook. The grandmam's not going to do it. Fucking Snow, please. 1, he's a child. Fine. But 2, when he's old enough, what the fuck am I cooking? No. And I feel like that was what helped develop her character.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting with her, though, right? Because she does have a little bit of rebellious streak. Now, the reason I say this is because it gets established in this book that she likes eating raw meat, right?
Yeah.
The grandmam told her off. So the only reason she cooks her raw meat is because grandmam told her off. The second thing is that once Lucy Gray, the night before the game start, Lucy Gray is about to enter the arena, and Tigress says to him, that she wants her to win. She's wishing her luck. Tell her, give this whole meal to her and tell her that I wish her luck. I hope. Like, I'm so sorry.
And she even washes her dress and all of that. Yeah.
And she's like basically saying, I'm betting on her. Same way Haymitch said to Katniss. And then as I was reading this bit, I was like, oh my God. I think there's a moment in Mockingjay when Tigress and Katniss meet, right? And I'm just like, holy shit. I feel like it's like a Lucy Gray moment. So I went back and had a look because I'm reading The Hunger Games to the kids.
Yes.
And when she meets Tigress, she pulls the hood back and she like walks into the light so that Tigress can see her. And Tigress is like, then she's, I know you were a stylist, blah, blah, blah. And they had this little conversation and then she's looked at Tigress and she's, I'm going to kill Snow. Tigress smiles at her. And I was like, oh, you've got that little bit of a rebellious streak, love. You always had it because you washed Lucy Gray's clothes. You understood that this was absolute shit. I love this girl. And I don't know if Suzanne will ever hear this, but I want to know her story. I want to know this girl's story.
All the buzz is that we will see a third prequel because
yes, I know.
SC is infamous in her love of writing in threes, 3 acts, 3 books, 3 parts of 3 acts. This theme is recurrent. So it's just who will it be?
In that scene as well, you're right.
Yes.
In that scene as well, they're like Tigress brings them food and hers is raw. And she's like, I don't need anything cooked. And I was like, she finally got to move away from all of them. And then she's like, fuck it, I'm going to eat my shit raw, grandmam.
Yeah. Grandmam's long dead at that point. But
yes, I know. But I do. I love Tigress. I think she is Snow's complete opposite.
Okay, so Janice. Oh, no. So I'm going to shout this out because there is a teacher. It's on TikTok and her account is Hill's Hunger Game Teacher. Her content is excellent. And she was actually talking about the birthdays that are mentioned of all the characters throughout the books. And somewhere in Ballad, I believe, I think it's in Ballad, it's at the end where Corio is taking Sejanus's possessions to his parents on his 19th birthday. And it's described as being October. So she was wondering, like, what dates would be significant in October that Suzanne Collins would use. And one of the dates was early in October, which would make him a Libra. And the other couple of dates were at the end of October, which would make him a Scorpio. I think he's absolutely a Scorpio because they're passionate, they're emotionally intelligent, they are super protective, but they're also super empathetic, but they can strike as well. Like they have that streak in them. And I think you can see that in Sejanus, like when he throws the chair, when he's like arcing up, like he's the only one in the class that takes on Dr. Gall.
Yeah. And I think, so my notes for Sejanus is that he's a beautiful boy, but at times so very naive to the danger of the capital from within. He's fully aware of the danger of the capital outwardly, what they do to the districts and everything like that. He knows because he's from the district. Yeah,
but he didn't grow up learning the social game.
That's right. So he's very nice. And that is one thing where I will give Snow credit for. Yes, he did look out for him a little bit, but it was because more of an obligation than because he wanted to.
It was more of who his daddy was.
Yes.
That
out of obligation.
Motivated.
Yes, that motivated Snow.
Yeah.
But because Snow understands the danger of the capital from within. It's why he never mentions what Dr. Gall does to Clemmy or any of the shit that goes on in that lab. He's not an idiot. He knows that he has to be very fucking careful when it comes to that. Sejanus is a beautiful boy. He has strength. He has empathy. He has understanding. He is very conscious of right and wrong.
And that
he would never have survived the capital.
That was another part too, where I thought absolutely Snow is a sociopath, like bordering on psychopathy, because when it comes to Sejanus and their interactions, a lot of Snow's inner monologue is trying to figure out which emotion to use that would be appropriate and how to replicate it. And I'm like, oh, that is so something that somebody with sociopathy or psychopathy would think. I don't really know this emotion, but I've seen other people use it.
Yeah.
So how do I replicate that?
How do I emulate it?
And then at the very beginning, when Snow describes him as the well-fed district boy with the Cloddish accent who first wandered up to him clutching a bag of gumdrops. After reading Sunrise on the Reaping, I was like, you fucker.
Fucking asshole.
I was so mad. I was like,
bastard.
Because then you got to think.
I have a point that made me madder, and we'll discuss it later in like the last point where there was things that just stuck with you. I know there was heaps, but oh my God. And that's what I mean by her writing, just the layer upon layer of talent in this writing is ridiculous. Yeah. Dean Highbottom.
Again, poor fucker.
I hated him at first, right? Before you realize why, I'm like, what the fuck is your problem, you little shitbag?
No, like even at the beginning, I was like, something's up here. Because you are not self-medicating for no fucking reason.
I was
like, that was red flag number one for me.
I was just, another obnoxious douchebag who, because he came off giving the impression like this didn't interest him. None of this interested him. Anything that Dr. Girl said, oh, fucking whatever. Yes. Okay, fine. Yes. The Hunger Games. And I was like, okay, why are you not interested in this? We know that most of the capital is interested because they find it as entertainment. We know everybody else thinks it's fucking appalling. What the fuck's going on with you, douche? Then by the end of it, I was like, oh.
Because the whole time he knows that Coriolanus is exactly like Crassus.
He picked him. Can I run into the next side character we're going to talk about? So,
bring it on.
So, Dean Highbottom saw exactly who Snow was, right?
Yep. From the beginning.
From the beginning, you are exactly like your father, you vicious little bastard. You have no empathy, no sympathy. You are only out for yourself, right? You know who else saw those lovely traits in him? Dr. Girl. So where Dean Highbottom was like, I'm going to make your life a living hell because your father fucked me over. And I'm now dealing with the repercussions of this. Your dad's dead. And I'm so glad you've got no money. I'm so glad you're like on dire times. I hope he's all fucking have to go and live out in the sticks and fuck right off. He saw Snow for exactly who he was. And that was why he was so harsh on him. One, because of his dad, and two, because he knew what was coming. Dr. Girl saw those exact same traits and went, you know what? I'm going to nurture that little prick.
Yeah, I'm going to make him vicious.
I am going to. And that is why when she makes him do all those tasks, all those essays, how do we make the games better? What did you like about war? She is leading him to the path that she knows that he's going to end up in. All right? You want to, 100%. She was like, come here, little protege. Sit on my lap. I will teach you how to be a fuckwit.
But that's the thing, right? So you said protege. So regardless if he was going to land there or not, she is grooming him.
She's 100% grooming him.
The whole time.
The whole entire time. And he realizes that after he goes to officer school, he's meant to get dropped off in District 2, and he doesn't get dropped off at District 2. He ends up back at the Capitol, and he's like, what's going on here, guys? And she's like, how did you enjoy your little vacation? And he's like, vacation? And she's like, I didn't want you wasting around here for the whole summer, did I? You went so you could be taught some lessons. What did you learn? And I was like, oh, you're fucking, like, I knew you were crazy, but wow.
Yeah.
That's next level freaking crazy. So they both saw the same thing in Snow. He tried to make him suffer for it, Dean Highbottom, where Dr. Gull was like,
you're the next leader of Panem.
Let me stroke your ego.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the Plinths. So Janus's parents.
Oh, poor Ma.
Ma, I felt bad for.
I did feel bad for.
Don't know about old Strabo.
Oh, see,
I'm torn on that one.
I feel sorry for old Strabo because he was just trying to do, I feel like everything.
He was trying to save his son.
He was trying to save his family. He was trying to keep them safe. He knew that in the districts, there would be a chance that he would end up in the capital arena. He knew that. He was trying to keep his family safe. He also knew that his son would not be able to do it. I feel like he knew his son better than his son thought he did, because I feel like he knew that if push came to shove and Sejanus had to do something like the Hunger Games or witness all this suffering, he wouldn't be able to do it.
But what's interesting, though, about that is that how good is Strabo at playing the social status game in the Capitol?
Oh, amazing.
Why didn't he teach his son?
Because his son is like his wife. They just don't have it. You know how there are those people like Snow who know how to play the game and who are fully committed to doing whatever they need to do to survive. And then there's those people that, whether it's right or wrong, that all they see is right or wrong.
I think it comes down to character integrity as well, because obviously Sejanus had far more integrity to his character than his dad did, because his dad was willing to play the game to save his son.
Yes.
But Sejanus wasn't willing to play the game even to save himself.
No, that's right. And see, and this is where a lot of people, I love Katniss, don't get me wrong. This is my personal opinion. But Sejanus and Katniss are not the same. Katniss has a willingness. No. Katniss has a willingness to survive, to do whatever she needs to survive. Her family to survive.
Sejanus is more like Peeta.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
But so Mar's beautiful. Although Ma has a bit of a backbone. I will note, okay, I have notes on this one.
Yeah.
Where I was like, ooh, so you do have dropping shit left, right, center. I was like, oh, you do have a bit of a backbone. Like, yes, you are sweet and you have this character integrity and you have a moral compass, and you know that the Capitol isn't for you or your son. You're fully understanding that. But you also know that your husband is just doing what he can to protect you both. So these are my notes on Ma, because I was like, ooh, go Ma.
A little shrine to District 2. I love that.
There was that. But, my 6 pages of notes on my phone. Where is it?
This was probably the best time I've had buddy reading a book, just FYI.
Ah, yay. We're going to do another one.
Yeah, we are.
It was after Marcus, when Sejanus goes into the arena.
And she send me in?
Yes, but then she's like, no, you can't go in. You won't be able to get him. Like Dr. Giles, no. Snow, you go in. And she was like, no, you will not send that boy in there to his death. Absolutely not. She's like, no one else can go in. And she's like, I can. And Dr. Giles, no, you can't. She's like, you're not listening. You will not send him in there. And I was like, Ma, it's you.
Snap.
Yeah. I was like, you tell him, Ma. And then I was like, if I was you, I would send that little bastard in, because, he's going to get your son killed.
She doesn't know.
But it was a mama bear protecting a child. You cannot send that boy in there. Absolutely not. So Snow's bullshit, right? At the end, when he is living with them, using their money, pretending to be Ma's son, so she's got something to focus on. I was like, oh, I hate you so badly, Snow. I hate you. I hate you.
Which makes me wonder what her fate in particular was in the end.
I would like to think, which is really fucking stupid because we know Snow's Snow, that he would have at least protected her a little.
Maybe he did.
Not protect her, but at least let her go into the beyond, thinking
in peace.
In peace. Don't fuck with her, Snow.
Yeah.
Just use her money and all that kind of shit. Fine. But just let her think that you protected her son. You know what? When you get married, let her fuss. I hope he allowed her to fuss. I hope with his kids and his grandkids or whatever, if she was still around, that he let her be involved. I'm gonna hold on to that, because if he does anything else, I'll be so fucking mad.
So we get a lot of lore about the Covey in this book. We also get a lot of lore about the Capitol and the different lineages and things like that, right? So let's talk a little bit about the other mentors that are chosen for this assignment.
So we've got some heavens bees in there.
Yes. In fact, the hall
and that they're cranes.
The hall that they're meeting in is
Heavensby Hall.
So Hilarious is his name. Funny enough. Hilarious Heavensby is one of the mentors, and he is actually assigned to Wovey.
Yes.
We also have Arachne Crane.
Yes. Bitch got what she deserved, man.
Yeah, she got what she deserved for sure. We also have, so at the time that Coriolanus is in Academy, the president is President Ravenstill. And one of the mentors is Felix Ravenstill. Now, if you have not read the book and you've only seen the movie, Felix Ravenstill is not the president's fucking son. Felix Ravenstill is the president's great nephew. Okay? So they're not that connected.
Neither of us were fans of the movie. I wasn't a fan to begin with before I'd read the book. I hadn't read the book until recently, but I had watched the movie. I wasn't a fan to begin with. Now I'm even less of a fan.
We also have Visnia Sickle.
Yes.
Sickle is another name that comes up quite a bit. Who else did we have? Yeah, I think that's about it for that. But it's interesting because, like I said, some of the mentors, they don't like what they're doing.
No, they don't.
Which is just sad because they're being made to essentially mentor other children who they know are going to die.
Yeah.
So not an easy burden to bear.
No.
And some of them relish in this opportunity to the point where, like Clemencia, because of everything that happens with her and Dr. Gall's mutts, and she gets bit by the snakes and she has to be concealed in the hospital because she's growing scales and all of this kind of business. Her tribute is actually Reaper.
Yeah.
And she actually withholds food and water because she makes a comment, I'll feed him when he does something worth it.
Yeah. I also think, though, that because we learn in that book that Jessup has
rabies. And he did not get it from a rat.
No, he didn't.
He got it from a raccoon. That rat poison that they put out was actually working. Remember, because we had this discussion where you're like, it's not working. It was working.
Yeah, because it was a raccoon.
Yeah. And he got bit by a raccoon.
So we learn in the book that Reaper's running his mouth going, I'm going to kill you all, blah, 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 blah. And then on the last night or a couple of nights before the arena, Jessup spat in his face.
Yes.
So therefore, I don't know if the food would have been a motivation for Jessup, for Reaper, because he had rabies.
Yes.
So he wouldn't have eaten or drunk anything anyway, even if she had sent it in.
But that's interesting, though, because he ends up dead because Lucy Gray poisons the puddle of water that he's been drinking from. This means that the symptoms of rabies haven't yet set in because
properly.
He doesn't have hydrophobia at the time of the games.
The tributes other than Lucy Gray, what do you think? Thoughts? Feelings?
I really wanted Coral and Mizzen to die. They turned super vicious. And I think that's where
they reminded me of Cato and Clove.
And I think this is where we see the first real like career pack start to come out, because they are very skilled with their tridents and yeah.
And they teamed up. The stronger ones teamed up.
Yes.
The Mia's death, I was like, you fucking little bastards. And here's the thing, right? You in the arena, you watch these kids team up and you watch these stronger kids band together, career tributes, so that they can win the games, because they are trying to survive. But at the same time, and you know this, they're only trying to survive. But at the same time, when they both, like the three of them went after her, so two climbed the poles because she just sat up there and sat on the pole, and one's like the other guy was down the bottom. I was like, you little bastards. I felt bad saying it. But I was like, oh, you fuckers.
I also thought it was interesting that Bobbin, being from the textile district, I know 5 ways to kill you with a needle.
I loved that it was Wovey, wasn't it? Was it Wovey? No, I don't think. District 3. Who's our tributes from District 3? Hang on.
Get out the list.
Our Beatty and Wyrus. Who was our Beatty and Wyrus for this one?
Oh, yeah. How they like commandeered
the
drones so that they could reprogram them.
I was like, oh my God, it's Beatty and Wyrus. It's like Beatty and Wyrus. It's our little Beatty and Wyrus reference.
Yeah.
I loved that. But I also loved, and did you get the, so this is, did you get, right, the reference between Jessup and Lucy Gray, their protection of each other?
What do you mean?
To Katniss and Peeta.
Oh, yes.
I was like, oh, and there's our little Katniss and Peeta. Like, not a love story.
But they weren't going to leave each other.
They were their own little alliance. They held hands. They slept together. One stood guard while the other kept watch. Like, they did the same things. There was that camaraderie, that we are District 12 between the two of them. And I was like, oh, there's that reference.
And the only time that, you know, she turned on him really was because he was rabid and he was going to bite her or spit on her or whatever.
And Peeta was what in Mockingjay? Rabid.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, he'd been reprogrammed, but he was rabid. He tries to kill her, and I was like, oh, there you go.
Okay, and last but not least,
your
Covey.
favorites. Yeah.
The Covey. So what did you think of them?
I loved, so you want to know what my note for this says? Found family.
Yes.
I loved their found family aspect. They found Tam Amber on the side of the road. He's part of the family. They're not all related. So the three girls we find out are cousins, but Claire Carmine and Billy Tope are not cousins. They're not family related, but
they are family related.
No, but not to the girls.
But they're brothers.
They're brothers, yes. But to the girls, they're not related. And that's such a found family vibe. And they stuck together, and it was all about trust and loyalty with them. And once you had their trust and loyalty, it was very hard to lose.
Was it?
In themselves, though, Billy doesn't count. He's a dick. Put it this way, if you've lost it, you're fucking gone then, aren't you? You're not coming back.
Yeah, definitely. Because Lucy Gray even says trust is more important than love.
Trust is more important than love.
I love all kinds of things that are dangerous, like snakes.
Yeah, but I only trust a few.
I loved all of the Covey songs and poems, and I love that she pulled from Wordsworth, and I love the way that she wove all that together. Like I said, Lucy Gray's ballad is about how she dies in a snowstorm because she's sent out in a snowstorm. Lucy Gray dies because she gets caught up
of a snowstorm.
In a snowstorm.
Yeah. Very poignant.
A literal snowstorm.
Very poignant.
Yes.
Snow's influence over the Hunger Games. Oh my fucking, I texted you so many times reading this, going, he fucking created the Hunger Games. He is the creator. Like, I know they were already created, but I am talking about what we see in that original trilogy. It is him.
Yep.
It is all him. The
mentors, absolutely.
Except for the mentors. But it would eventually be him, right? Because they'd be like, yeah, pull in the mentors. How can we continue to torture the tributes? I know.
Yeah. And I even have actually a note about the mentors. And okay, so reflecting on the classroom discussion with Dr. Gall and the electricity in the audience when they'd fed the starving tributes at the zoo, he focused on the food. For the first time, sponsors would be able to buy items, a piece of bread, a chunk of cheese to be delivered by drone to a specific tribute. A panel would be established to review the nature and value of each item. A sponsor would have to be a capital citizen in good standing who was not directly related to the games. This ruled out game makers, mentors, peacekeepers assigned to guard the tributes, and any of the aforementioned parties' immediate family members. So I had this marked because I thought to myself, I wonder if in the future, because of that in particular, if that's why the mentors also become or get tortured. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Just, it was so many little things. Like the fact that he mentioned that they don't know who's dead yet. So Lucy Gray was going back to see the dead tributes. He was like, maybe there should be a way to announce the dead tributes. I'm like, far out, nobody.
Yeah, I had that marked as, that was the invention of the cannon and the screen.
And the screen at nighttime telling you all the dead tributes. The token, I know it's his mum's compact, but he wanted her to have something of him. He also wanted her to use it to put the rat poisoning in. She could take a token in to remind her of me. I was like, fucking nice, douchebag.
Yeah.
It went so far as, he was the one that came up. He wrote that paper betting getting more people to watch. And that was the other thing. He goes to the districts and he talks about the shoddy fucking electricity and no one's got a TV. As if he doesn't jump in and implement the fact that it's law, by law, you better be watching that TV.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, yeah, you can have electricity. It'll run perfectly while the games are on or anything about the game. That would have all been him. He is the true mastermind and the true development behind those games to what we have in the Hunger Games. It was all him.
Him and his dad.
Yes, him and his dad. The Snow legacy.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree. All right.
So parallels between, and we've discussed it a little bit, but between Lucy Gray and Katniss Everdeen.
So the singing,
Yes.
the bowing or the curtsying. Where she, what?
Is that only a movie thing?
No, she curtsies several times in the book.
But did Katniss curtsy? I don't know if she did in the book. I know she said to them, thank you for your consideration, but I don't know if she curtsied.
I think it says she bowed.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to go back, but I'm pretty sure it's there. Both of their love of birds, particularly mockingjays.
Yeah.
Which Snow hates.
Yeah.
Both are Covey.
Yes.
So LG is a direct member, whereas Katniss is a descendant from her father's side.
Yes.
Which we learned from Sunrise on the
Reaping.
Yeah.
I also have that they both got their own strengths and smarts. We find that out when Snow's in the, I don't know what kind of truck they are being taken to. They're in the truck that takes them to the zoo. Is it like a rubbish truck? Like a dump? You guys would call it a dump truck or something?
Yeah.
Something like that. And it just tips them out at the zoo. And he's in there and the tribute's, let's just fucking kill him now. And she's like, do you have anyone at home that they can torture? Because you kill him, they'll go and kill your family, torture your family. Have you got anyone you still love? And I was like, and that's Katniss, right? Katniss was smart enough to know when it all started going to shit, crap. I've got my mum, I've got my sister, I've got Peeta, I've got Gale and his whole entire family to take care of. Snow is going to fuck me. I need to toe the company line because if I don't, they're all dead.
Yeah.
And obviously they've still got their own strengths. Like when push comes to shove, they'll do what they have to do.
I also put strong, independent women that Snow doesn't know what to do with, as his mother was very dependent on his father and fragile.
Okay, are we just like brain sharing or something? My next point was Snow doesn't know what to do with strong, independent women. And
their love of freedom.
Yes.
And the wild and the wilderness and nature. All right. Parallels between Snow and Gale.
Oh, they're both pick me bitches, aren't they?
Pick me.
Pick me. Yeah.
So they both exhibit narcissistic behavior. They both gaslight the shit out of people.
Yes.
They're both possessive obsessive towards the FMC in their respective books.
Their thinking is very similar, but Gale's is geared towards district where Snow's is geared toward capital.
Yes, so it's very us versus them.
It's very us versus them. It's also their sense of justice. So to Snow, the rebels caused the death of his mother and his unborn sibling, his sister.
Yep.
The death of his father, the ruin of his family with no money. Gale, it's all the capitals to blame. They killed him because they worked his father so horribly in the mines and they've got no safety or anything like that. His father's dead. Katniss's father's dead. He's had to provide for his family. They let them starve. They don't care. So any means justifies their ends to them.
Yeah, I agree.
Everything that the opposite has done.
I agree. Because I had the us versus them mentality.
Yes. And I feel their sense of self. They are owed everything. Yeah. Especially when it comes to the FMCs. Gale believes that he is owed Katniss because they have been dependent on each other for survival. Because of their shared experiences.
Yes, it's trauma bonding.
Yeah. Yeah. Katniss is owed to him, and Lucy Gray is owed to Snow because of everything that they've been through. This is what I deserve.
Exactly.
Pick me. Okay.
Parallels between Sejanus and Peeta.
All right. They are very similar. However, I have a caveat for this.
Yep.
Peeta is 100 times smarter.
Yes. So Janus is a lot more naive.
Yes. So we get that when Peter's on the train and Hamish is starting to go, maybe I can actually help these kids. And he's at the train window waving, and Katniss is like, are you fucking joking? She's very much in her Gale. I call that her Gale mindset. She's got her Gale mindset on. I'm not going to participate in this shit. But Peter's there and he's trying his hardest to make himself, I suppose, relatable to the Capitol, right? And Hamish is like, my boy knows what he's doing. He knew. It's the same way that we see in Peter's interviews with Caesar.
Yes.
He came here with the girl he loves, and everyone's like, oh. And Hamish is like, damn, kid's good.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, where it's all, oh, we are married. But if it wasn't for the baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I don't think Sejanus has got that.
He's more manipulative than Sejanus.
He can play the game.
Yes, he can play the game.
He's Strabo.
What? He's Strabo.
Yeah, he can play the game.
So they're both kind. Yeah. And they both want to help others because Janus goes into the Peacekeepers to become a medic and Peeta feeds the poor.
Yeah.
So they both have that want to help others.
Yep.
And I wrote down both are captives of Snow.
Yes.
In different ways.
So I had both used to further Snow's agenda.
We're mind sharing. It's cool.
I know.
Where's that?
They are both beautiful boys. Just one's just got a little bit more smarts than the other.
Moving on.
So the Heavensby dynasty. Do you believe Hilarious? I hate saying his name. Hilarious. I like going Hilarious because it doesn't sound as bad as naming your kid Hilarious. Feelings toward the games and his tribute's death to be the foundation of Plutarch's role later in the trilogy.
Hilarious is not impressed with the fact that he has Wovey.
No, he's not.
She's small. He's basically, you're joking me. But he does say, is it over? Can we go home now, please? So I'm wondering if this games and his participation in it is what broke him internally from the games, because his historical lineage, his descendants obviously don't get programmed the same way.
No.
So I'm wondering if the death of Wovey and the whole mentor program.
I think it possibly could be.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility. I think because we see by Sunrise on the Reaping that Plutarch is full on, this is some bullshit right now. I think there may need to be like other little instances that drive the Heavensby family. But I think with generations to come of the Heavensbys, I feel like, yes, they wouldn't be raised with the same bigotry as he probably was raised with. So his kids, he's not going to raise his kids to believe that the Hunger Games are something that's
normal.
Yeah, or essential to the Capitol. And I think it would be done in a specific way that they all realize that, however, this isn't something that you can run your mouth about, because if you do, this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
But yes, I wholeheartedly believe that it probably could be.
Final question. Moments that stuck with you.
So, do you want to know the moment that stuck with me the most?
Oh, right? Gosh, there's a lot.
There is a lot. But the one that stuck with me the most, let me find it. It is on 384.
I'm turning to that page.
This was the biggest moment that stuck with me. This is at the Hob. They finally managed to get a minute together, right? So it starts on 383. And you found me, she said, in District 12, in Panem, in the world itself. Never mind, it didn't matter. You knew I would. Hoped you would. Didn't know. The odds didn't seem in my favor. And I was like, you bastard, you did not turn that around later on. When I say that he quite literally ran the games, that man ran the fucking games, because you did not turn that around later on and use that beautiful quote from some girl who, like, Covey girl that loved you so much as, may the odds be ever in your favor. Yeah. I was devastated. That is the big, like, I got chills in that moment. That was the biggest part that stuck with me throughout. And there are so many, right? We know this. There are so many that have stuck with me. But that part, like now listening to Effie go, and may the odds be ever in your favor. I was like, I can't with that anymore. Now that I know where it comes from, I just can't.
Hold on, let me see. Yep. Okay. So actually, it's on the same page.
Oh, yes, okay.
If his brief foray in the games had left him nervous and nightmarish, he could only imagine how damaged she was. The last month had upended their lives and changed them irrevocably. Sad, really, as they were both rather exceptional people for whom the world had reserved its harshest treatment. Like, they didn't have thoughts like that. And I'm like, really? And then you're going to go and try to offer.
Just fuck everybody else. You literally fuck everyone else. There's no word to describe what that man does to people. It's just phenomenal.
There's a reference in here. So it's on 426. And this was interesting because this is the Ballad of Lucy Gray.
Yep.
And you know how we were talking about family trees?
Yes.
Okay. 426. She's singing the Ballad of Lucy Gray.
Yep.
Then downwards from the steep hill's edge, they tracked the footmarks small and through the broken hawthorn hedge and by the long stone wall.
Don't.
So I'm like, Gail?
Don't you?
Mark?
No. Absolutely not.
So I thought that was interesting because I'm like,
no.
What's interesting though, right, is that in Sunrise on the Reaping, we don't get any lore where Gale is concerned.
No, you just assume he's seen.
Yes, but you get lore on Astrid March. You get lore on Burdock Everdeen, who's Katniss's parents. You get lore on Peeta's parents. You get lore on all of these people, but there's nothing in there about the Hawthorne family, which makes me think.
Don't do it, please. I can't. I won't be able to unhear it, and I'll be so mad.
Which makes me think that if there is a third book, perhaps it will come from somebody in the Hawthorne family.
If you're even remotely insinuating that Gale Hawthorne is a descendant of Lucy Gray.
No, I don't think that he's a descendant, but
fuck for that.
But I'm wondering if married into somehow.
I don't know, because I feel like they're setting up a lot with the Chance boys.
True.
If that makes sense. True. Do you know what I mean? So we see that the man in the hanging tree, that song, is, what was his name?
Arlo Chance.
Arlo. We see that it's Arlo Chance, which is obviously connected to, I think it's Woodrow Chance, who was the boy that runs in Sunrise on the Reaping, hence the reason that Haymitch is reaped. And the Chance boys, if Haymitch says that if his family is classed as rebels, the Chance boys, the whole entire family, yeah, they run the joint. They're the leaders of the rebels.
The other thing that stuck out to me as well, because I am a history major, how fucked up is it that Dr. Gall was an obstetrician?
I know. Yet you brought life into the world.
And her reasoning behind why she left that discipline of medicine.
Yeah, because parents look to you so much for help. She had all the fucking answers. Mate, why the fuck you chose obstetrics in the first place is beyond me.
Obstetrics, yeah.
Because as if you've got a maternal fucking bone in your body. You bat crap crazy psycho. No. What the fuck?
The other thing that stood out to me, I mean, there was a lot in this book, but Marcus's particular death was just, yeah.
That reminded me a bit of Peeta and what Peeta would have gone through as a captor of the Capitol. Peeta and Joanna and Norbria, they all were captured by the Capitol. I don't reckon Marcus got that far. Like the other guys were shot. I reckon Marcus, because he probably spent a day or two initially away or 24 hours away, they made him pay for that. And I feel it's very poignant with how Peeta was captured. The other thing that I feel is that And we can only draw these conclusions. So I'm only drawing these conclusions. I'm drawing parallels here. But the other things that stood out for me was that so in the meadow, that was another part that got me. So Lucy Gray is sitting there singing in the meadow. And I can only, and this is just me going, we know who Snow is. We know who, like the whole story. Can you imagine that bastard's face as he's watching the Hunger Games with Katniss and Rue? And she's sitting there in a meadow surrounding this girl in flat. This girl's about to die and she's singing to her. A little girl like Maud, right? Singing her to sleep. I was like, huh, that's just fucked up. And I fucking hope you realized who she was. Like, I hope you realized she was Covey. I hope you realized she was a descendant somehow of all those people you fucked over. And I hope you were terrified in that moment. And because I honestly feel that everything he did to Katniss, to Peeta, all of that, those 3 games, those 3 books, he did because he was just purely terrified. Lucy Gray had came back to fucking haunt him. Suck it, you douchebag.
I also thought the part where Maud Ivory tells Snow that his name sounds like Covey.
Yeah.
That was really good too, because I was like, oh, it fucking does. Because the way that they name and then she explains how they're named.
Yeah, the ballad and then the color. And
it's interesting because he says, how so? She says, because of the snow part, white as snow. Snow White, giggled Maud Ivory. Is there a ballad with Coriolanus in it? Not that I know of.
Not that I know of.
Why don't you write one about me? He said, poking her back. The Ballad of Coriolanus Snow. Maud Ivory sat down on his stomach. Lucy Gray's the writer. Why don't you ask her?
Too bad we didn't get that in like the 3 books.
But you know what? There may not be a ballad, but there damn sure is a play.
Oh, yes.
Shakespearean.
And this, okay, so this is just another thing for me. And it's very little, right? But it hit that all fire bit. You know how I'm going to try all fire. It's just that, it's a little thing, right?
Like having the gumdrops and the all fire and
a little thing. So I have recently been rereading these books and I've been reading them to my kids.
Yep.
Okay. And this was a part that got me, right? Because they were talking about in the original 3, especially in the first one, things that they were enjoying about the Capitol. And Katniss says that one of the things she really loves is the lamb stew with the plums. She mentions it a few times. Do you want to know one of Coriolanus's favorite meals is? He was very happy he got this at school one day. The lamb fucking stew with the plums. And I was like, just no.
Just stop it.
Just stop it.
But I think,
and here's the thing, right? We could go on we've gone on for hours as it is already. And we could continue to go on.
Yeah, we could. We could. Look, people, this is my copy. We are tabbed to death, and
I've got 6 pages of notes through my phone. And all my tab.
All right.
So we should probably wrap it up here before it's too long. So it's that time again. And this week, our cocktail is dedicated to the brightly coloured Lucy Gray and her musical companions, appropriately named the Covey. Because we refuse to celebrate. I didn't write this one clearly, but that's great. As we refuse to celebrate a tyrannical psychopath. Written, my friend.
High fives. Snaps for me.
Snaps for you. We bring this recipe to you from spiritelder.com. This recipe comes in 2 parts. Here's what you'll need and what you'll need to do. First, you'll need to make a lavender syrup. To make the syrup, add the following to a saucepan. 2 tablespoons of lavender buds, 1 cup of sugar, and 1 cup of water. Bring all ingredients to a slow simmer, stirring frequently, and then let it continue to simmer for a full 5 minutes. Cut the heat, and once it's cooled to room temperature, use a strainer or a cheesecloth to separate the herb material from the liquid. Store in an airtight container in the fridge after using. Now, to craft the cocktail. The Covey. 1.5 ounces of Buffalo Trace bourbon, 0.75 of an ounce quail egg white, or 1 1/3 tablespoons egg white powder, 0.75 ounces of lavender syrup with the instructions that we just mentioned, 1.5 ounces of blood orange juice, 1 teaspoon Meyer lemon juice, 4 dashes of Scrappy Olean's bitters.
Yep.
I don't know if you're going to get that in Australia.
You can.
You can? Woo! Look at you go. Garnish with blood orange wedge and lavender stalk. All right. So how are you going to make this? Add ingredients into a shaker and dry shake. This allows the egg whites to achieve their velvety soft texture. Shake it vigorously for 30 seconds. After this, throw ice into the shaker and shake it for another 20 seconds before straining the final product into a cosmopolitan glass. The final product will be a bright red with a white foam on top. Power Snow Press, Lucy Gray, and the whole Covey. And everybody in Panam. Garnish with fresh lavender sprigs and a small wedge of the blood orange.
And it looks amazing.
I know. The picture you've got here is fucking divine.
And I will say, because I've had Buffalo Trace before, it is chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss?
In the realm of bourbons, yes.
Nice. Very nice.
All right. Huge thank you to all the bibliomaniacs out there listening and watching. Please stop by our Instagram page, The Plot with a Twist, and check the link tree in our bio where you can find links to us across the internet, including all of our social media, website, shop, Facebook group, you name it, it's there. Give us a like or a follow so that you can stay up to date with episode releases as well as product launches from our book merch shop. We appreciate your support from the bottom of our hearts. Every little bit counts. Tune in next week for another all-new bookish episode full of magic, mayhem, and maybe just a little bit of smut. Until then, keep reading.